Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janaballabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Janaballabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Astotara Sata Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhani Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Mathura Dham Ki Jai Navadip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 55. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Prajahati Yada Kaman Sarvan Partha Mano Gatan Atmani Vatmana Tushta Stita Pragdastadochate Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Prajahati Yada Kaman Sarvan Partha Manogatan Atmani Vatmana Tushta Stita Pragnyatadochate Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Prajahati Yada Kaman Sarvam Partha Manogatan Atmani vatmana tushta stita prajnastadochyate. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Prajahati gives up, yada when, kaman desires for sense gratification, sarvan of all varieties, partha, O son of Pritha, managatan of mental concoction, atmani in the pure state of the soul, eva certainly, atmana by the purified mind, tushta satisfied, stita pragyaha transcendently situated, tada at that time, uchyate it is said. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Blessed Lord said, O Partha, when a man gives up all varieties of sense desires which arise from mental concoction, and when his mind finds satisfaction in the self alone, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness. Purport. The Bhagavatam affirms that any person who is fully in Krishna consciousness or devotional service to the Lord has all the good qualities of the great sages, whereas a person who is not so transcendently situated has no good qualifications because he is sure to be taking refuge in his own mental conclusions. Consequently, it is rightly said herein that one has to give up all kinds of sense desire manufactured by mental concoction. Artificially, such sense desires cannot be stopped. But if one engages in Krishna consciousness, then automatically sense desires subside without extraneous efforts. Therefore, one has to engage himself in Krishna consciousness without hesitation, for this devotional service will instantly help one on to the platform of transcendental consciousness. The highly developed soul always remains satisfied in himself by realizing himself as the eternal servitor of the Supreme Lord. Such transcendently situated person has no sense desires resulting from petty materialism. Rather, he remains always happy in his natural position of eternally serving the Supreme Lord. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Prajahati Yada Kaman Sarvapartha Manogatan Atmani Vatmana Tushta Stita Pragya Chayuchyate Tadochyate. So, you'll notice in this verse, it is said Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. In the Bhagavad Gita, when somebody begins to speak, then the name of the speaker is mentioned. Right at the beginning is Sanjaya Uvacha. Sanjaya Uvacha means, or Dhritarashtra Uvacha. King Dhritarashtra says, and Sanjaya Uvacha. Sanjaya says, Arjuna Uvacha. But when it comes to Krishna speaking, it doesn't say Krishna Uvacha. It says Bhagavan Uvacha. In other words, Vyasadeva is pointing out that Krishna is not just a normal speaker, he is Bhagavan. So what does Bhagavan mean? And why is it important? It is important because we take instructions from the Bhagavad Gita so we can mold our lives. A devotee, one who wants to become enlightened, one who wants to know who he is, where he's coming from, what is the purpose of life, where is he going to after death, why is he in this material world. Such a person asking these questions, he has to ask these questions to the Supreme Authority. someone who is actually qualified to answer. And Krishna is known as Bhagavan because he is qualified. Bhaga means wealth, opulence, and Van means to possess. So what does Krishna possess? He possesses beauty, fame, knowledge, uh, wealth, power, and renunciation. All these qualities are very attractive. Even in the material world, if someone is very beautiful, he has many followers or she has many followers. We see the movie stars, Hollywood stars, they have thousands and millions of followers because they are beautiful. Or if someone is very wealthy, and so many people follow him. Or if someone is very strong or very renounced, like in India, we had the example of Mahatma Gandhi. He exhibited a high degree of renunciation, and therefore he became a leader of millions of people. Now, these qualities are attractive, but when you find that personality who has all the qualities, which is very rare to find, it is not actually to be found in the material world. When one has all these qualities to an unlimited degree, and he is called Bhagavan, and that is God. God has all these qualities to an unlimited degree. You cannot estimate Krishna's beauty, Krishna's power, Krishna's strength, Krishna's fame, Krishna's knowledge, or Krishna's renunciation. That cannot be. Uh, so, Bhagavan is a term, a definition for God, just like Krishna. Krishna means, the word Krishna comes from the root, Sanskrit root, the Sanskrit dhatu, karshan, means to attract. Krishna means all attractive. Another name of Krishna is Hari, who takes away, who attracts. He attracts our good qualities. Therefore, he is qualified to be our teacher. And the definition of Bhagavan was given by Parasara Muni. Parasara Muni was the father of Vyasadeva, great sage. And uh, he defined what is the quality of God. God has unlimited qualities and he has unlimited names. According to a narrow point of view, we understand God differently. For example, in the Christian faith, we understand God as Jehovah, the Supreme Father, our Father who art in heaven, not our Father who is in the material world, not the Father of our material body, but Father who is in heaven. And hallowed be thy name is so powerful that even his name is imbued with all his qualities. So we pray in Christianity to God as the Father, so we call him Jehovah. In the Mohammedan tradition, in Islam, the name of God is Allah. Allah means the greatest, because God is the greatest. He is not only the Supreme Father and order supplier, he is also the greatest who can do anything. In the Buddhist tradition, he is known as Buddha. Buddha means Bodha. Bodha means intelligence or knowledge. He is the most knowledgeable. In fact, Buddhist monks, they spend lifetimes studying the sutras or the definitions of God, definition of spirit. So, in different traditions, God is known by different names. But those names refer to the same person. And God is much more than just a Supreme Father. He's much more than the most powerful. He's much more than the most knowledgeable. He's also the most beautiful. He's also the strongest. So he has beauty and knowledge and renunciation and fame to an unlimited degree. Therefore, he's called Bhagavan. Therefore, here in this verse of the Bhagavad Gita, Vyasadeva points out Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. And what does he say? Uvacha means to say. He says that when you give up your material desires, based on mental concoction, and you come to understand your eternal position as a spirit soul, then you become happy, you become satisfied. Earlier in the Bhagavad Gita, or later in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna defines the elements of the material world. Bhumi, Apo, Nalo, Vayu, Kam, Mano, Buddhir, Evacha. These are Binna Prakriti, these are my external elements. Bhumi means earth, Bhumi, Apo means water, Anala means air, Vayu means space, Anala means fire, Vayu means air, and Kam means space. So, Bhumir, Apo, Nalo, Vayu, Kam, Buddhir, Mana, Buddhir, Ahankara, Evacha. Then there is the mind, the intelligence, and the ego. These 8 elements, Krishna says, are my Binna Prakriti. These are the elements that cover who we are. Our body is made of the material energy of these 8 elements. It is a gross body. If you study your material body, you'll find mostly it is water, and then different elements that come from the earth. There is fire in the digestive system. There is space within the body. Then there is the mind, which is the subtle body. There is the intelligence and the ego. This is called the subtle body. These are external energies. Then Krishna points out, as the perfect teacher, that you are within these 8 elements, but what is within these 8 elements? Apareya mitastu anyam prakritim vidi me param. He says, no, vidi me param, something which is greater than these external elements. That is jiva bhuta mahabaho yayedam dharyate jagat. That is the jiva, or the living entity, which is maintaining the whole universe. This is Krishna's teaching, Krishna's opinion, not opinion, Krishna's law, Krishna's speaking the truth, that the material energy is not independent. Spiritual energy is the cause of matter. Matter is not the cause of spirit. Consciousness doesn't come from matter. On the contrary, because of consciousness, matter is arranged by the arrangement of Krishna so that we can act in the material world. Just like in a country, in a state, that is the prison house. The prison house is maintained by the government. They spend a lot of time, money, and energy to maintain the prison house because certain citizens who don't want to follow the law and thus cause a disturbance to society. You cannot have people breaking the law, stealing, killing, and certainly creating a disturbance in society. So to prevent that percentage of criminals from creating a disturbance in society, the government constructs the jail and they put them in a prison. The prison has 2 functions. One function is to minimize and to take out the criminal element from honest society and to isolate them so they don't cause any trouble. And the second purpose of the prison is to make it a difficult place to be, and therefore the prisoners are subjected to all kinds of restrictions, to all kinds of austerities, so that they can come to their senses that I don't want to suffer being locked up in this prison. I don't want to suffer being made to follow all these rules. So let me become an honest citizen, so when I come out of prison, I will not come back again. So the creator of the prison is predicated by the activities of the dishonest criminal citizens. Because they act criminally, the prison is created. Those citizens who do not act criminally, they can take advantage of the other departments of the government, like the university, education, whatever. So in the same way, the living entity, when it is connected with God, when I am understanding my relationship as the eternal servant of God, then I can live with God in His spiritual kingdom because I don't cause any disturbance. I'm not crazy. I'm living in the kingdom of God, understanding what is my relationship with God, understanding that He is the supreme and I am His servant. If I want to imitate God and refuse to accept Him as my master, if I challenge God, then I come into the prison house of the material world. Now, one can ask, why is it that the living entity becomes inimical to God? Well, that is difficult to say, difficult to trace out. But because God is independent, we also have our independence. And God does not interfere with that independence because it is part of who we are. We are the Amsa. Krishna says, Mama eva Amsa Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. That the Jiva Bhuta, the living entity, it is my part. Mama eva Amsa. It is my Amsa, it is my part. Mana Shashtani Indriyani, being influenced by the mind and the six senses. Mana Shashtani Indriyani. So, excuse me, I forget. Mama eva amsa jiva loke, jiva bhuta sanatana, mana shashtani indriyani prakritim. The prakriti or the material energy is created for those living entities who are bewildered by their mind and senses as being independent of God. So in this purport, Prabhupada begins his explanation. He says that those who are fully Krishna conscious have all the good qualities of the Supreme Lord. Just like a spark of the fire, the closer the spark is to the fire, the more it will be bright. And if the spark falls away from the fire, then it will become dull and it will fall into the ash and it will even become covered. So the living entity, because we are eternally connected with God, when we remain in His association, we draw from God all the wonderful qualities that are also in God. In a minute form, we have the same qualities. So it is said in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the fifth canto. This I'm quoting. Prabhupada is explaining the verse. He doesn't quote the verse, but the verse is Yasyasti Bhaktir Bhagavati Akinchana Sarvair Gunais Tatra Samasati Suraha Aro Abhaktasya Kuto Mahadguna Manoratenasati Dhavato Bahi. That one who is a devotee of God, he automatically develops all the good qualities of the demigods. In other words, when you're connected with God, you are working with Him night and day, 24 hours a day in God's consciousness, then you act like God. You act in a godly way because of your connection, because of your good quality. Just like if I go and become friends with a bunch of drunkards, then I'll become a drunkard also. But if my friends are good, honest, law-abiding people, then I will also be an honest, law-abiding person by their example, by their association. So by connecting with God, by His association, we develop our natural godly qualities. But Haro Abhaktasya, one who is Abhakta, Haro, of God, one who is a non-devotee, Abhakta, Haro Abhaktasya, Kuto Mahadguna, where are his good qualities? This is the question. These are the prayers offered by the residents of Jambudvip. So they ask God that someone who is your devotee, he has all the good qualities, just like a demigod. But one who is not your devotee, where are his good qualities? Why do people who are not devotees of God don't have no good qualities? Because they're on the mental platform. Mano ratenasati dhavato bahi. Mana means mind, and ratena means chariot. Dhavato bahi, riding on the external platform. In other words, when you forget God, when we forget our relationship with God, then we break away from the source of all knowledge. We break away from the source of all goodness, of all good qualities. We are not independent. We are like children, and we are maintained by God. Just like a child is maintained by his parents. As long as the child follows the directions of his parents, he is protected and he has a good life. But if the child breaks away from that protection, then he can only get into difficulties and into trouble. And that is our position. So Krishna advises here that come off the mental platform, understand that you are more than the gross body and the subtle body, mind and intelligence and ego. Understand that you are a servant of illusion, a servant of the material energy. We are servants because we are being forced by a superior power. We are being forced to take birth. We didn't choose this birth. We are being forced to get old. We are being forced to get sick. And we are being forced to die. Even if we don't want it, we cannot overcome that power. That means we are servants of that power. That means there is a force above us who is forcing us to go through this problem of birth and death, which is called samsara. So Krishna says, come away from this illusion. Come away. Extract yourself from under the power of illusion and come under my power. Again, the example of the government and the prison house and the university. The people in the prison house and the people in the universities are both under the government. But the ones in the prison house are suffering. They're being forced by the government to suffer, and the ones in the prison house are liberal, or free. So in the same way, whether we become devotees of Krishna or whether we do not become devotees of Krishna, we are under his energy. Maya adhyakshena, Krishna says. Prakriti, the material energy, is under my direction. Suyate sacharacharam. And it is producing, it is giving facilities to living entities to come and go in this material cycle of birth and death. Hetu nanena konteya jagati parivartate. And because of these material desires, because of these living entities who refuse to take my directions, then they are forced to take directions of the material energy. And they are moving through different species of life. So Krishna says, don't do that. Come away from it. And then he said, Atmani evatmana tushta. You become peaceful and happy when you again connect with me. Just like a child, he may, for example, when I was a young man, I decided to leave home. I had some difference of opinion with my father. Actually, my father was a very good man, very good parent, but there arose a difference of opinion. I was too young, I was too inexperienced, I thought that I knew more than I did, I challenged him, and because of this difference of opinion, I left home. And I suffered. Not only I suffered, my father also suffered. He didn't want to see me away from home, struggling, moving from one place to another, trying to maintain myself. Eventually I came back home, and he was so happy to see me. He embraced me. He never mentioned any rancor. He gave me no punishment. He was just very happy to see me back home. And I was also happy to be back under his protection. So in the same way, Krishna is simply waiting for us to acknowledge him. Simply, and it is very easy to do, simply by calling out to him. Normally, it is a struggle. Normally, we have to go through life after life after life. We have to suffer again and again, birth, old age, disease, death. We have to circumambulate into the cycle of birth and death, cycle of samsara, again and again and again. And gradually, 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 we come to the understanding that I'm not happy here. In our subconscious, so much karma is being built up, so many reactions to pain and frustration. Ultimately, we come to the point of saying, enough, let me take to the spiritual path. But this gradual path, it is not possible in Kali Yuga. There is no institution on this planet to teach spiritual life. Maybe the Hare Krishna movement is the only institution that teaches our relationship with Krishna, our relationship with God. So, because the gradual process is beyond our, our reach, and this time the chanting of the holy name has been given by Krishna himself as an opportunity for us to reunite and come back home to him, we will be happy and free from the cycle of birth and death. And we will become tushta and stita pragya, and full knowledge. Tushta, or happiness, or self-satisfaction, is not some mental thing that you get by some indefinite meditation or some yoga exercise. No. Tushta, or satisfaction, comes from stita prajna, from actually steady intelligence of understanding what is what. Once you know the truth, you will never walk away from it, because the truth is the truth. It is not conditioned. It is not. It is absolute. Thank you very much. So we'll have again the class on Friday, day after tomorrow, same time, 7 o'clock. If you have any comments, please feel free to leave a message and I will reply. Thank you very much. Haribol.